I'm Jessica. I'm sure you guys have seen me here every week. I've been cooking your food for you guys, and so hopefully you guys enjoy it. The recipes are online. Yes, thank you. Well, back there too, they really help a lot. I've been trying to train them to cook for you guys. They're lighter recipes and things like that, and so they're going to be online. I've been delayed a couple weeks now, so I'll send them out to them and make sure that they have them so they can put them online. Today's recipes, I'm going to show you a couple of them, and then we'll talk through it. Does anybody know about the dense defense? I'm going to call it some. Have you heard of the dense defense? No. Have you guys heard of volumetrics eating? This is what volumetrics eating is. It's the dense defense. So volumetrics eating is a concept that came out recently, and it's quite interesting, and I'm going to go through it. Mainly, it's cutting calorie density in the foods that you eat, and it's created by Dr. Rolls. And so what she discovered was that people, no matter how much food you put in front of them, they were going to eat it. The more you gave them, the more full they felt. So her concept was, well, take out all the fattening foods in that food that you have in front of that person and incorporate things that are healthy, such as your fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. It actually works. So the goal is to take your most simple recipes that you have, remove half of the fat out of it, and inject it with something else, such as a vegetable or a fruit. And I'll give you guys some ideas later, but it goes into a little bit of detail. So you maintain the usual amount of food you eat and lower the calories, and you consume fewer calories, but you feel just as full. And they tend to eat based on weight. And you can do this usually through fruits and vegetables because they contain the most water. And water is what's going to fill you up the most. But we're going to talk, who drinks water before they eat a big meal? Okay. And so some of you. Who eats an apple before a big meal? Okay. Do that. Because water is one thing, food is another thing. Water quenches thirst. So when you drink water, your brain's thinking, okay, I'm quenching my thirst. It's not, I'm filling my stomach up. So trick your mind. And the way that you trick your mind is by eating an actual food that contains a lot of water to fill you up before your meal. The idea of drinking water works for some people, but not all. Just because it's a lot of the times you do need extra water in your body to begin with. When you drink it, your brain recognizes it as quenching thirst as opposed to helping you with your hunger. And so here's just a 100-calorie snack comparison of like what you can normally have. This idea is not something new. We actually do this on a daily basis in our diets to begin with. This is just more detailed, and I'll tell you guys how to calculate this out so that you can figure out what is high density and what isn't. But it's pretty interesting what you can get out of food. So the keys to energy density, there's three things. Water, fiber, and fat. Water is obviously the easiest. Fiber is what you also need. But let me warn you, for those who try to eat a whole bunch of fiber right away or incorporate fiber into your diet right away, be careful. It's not something that's fun. I made seaweed salad the other day. I don't know if you guys were around, but I had one of my students decided that seaweed salad sounded super good. He was up here starting at about 9 a.m. At about 3 p.m., he had been eating 6 hours worth of seaweed salad. He was up at 6 a.m. the next morning. It cleanses your system out. And if your body isn't used to that much fiber, your stomach starts to hurt. So please be careful. 30 grams is what most people average. There are definitely people who have a high fiber diet because they're maybe vegetarian, and so you can take in more. Fat is what we need to be careful of. So fat is obviously high in density, but we're going to talk about portions too, because that plays into all of this. Because 1 teaspoon of butter has almost the same calories as 2 cups of raw broccoli, and so there's volume and portions that you need to start watching for. So for these guys right here, each little dot is how many calories. And so obviously if you took a comparison, water has none. Fiber will have 2, and this is per gram. And so this is kind of a calculation of what densities in certain things that we eat. So the water content of food. Fruits and vegetables, obviously 80 to 95. Soups come into play in this diet a lot. I could eat soup all day long if I wanted to. Like, I just love soup. And so it's something that I can do. The cabbage diet, anybody ever hear of the cabbage soup diet? And I did that too. I remember when I did that. This is pretty much the same concept as the cabbage soup diet, because adding more water and adding more vegetables into your diet will obviously make you feel more full. And so if you have, I would suggest you make your own vegetable broth and just not add any salt to it, and you can have that and add things to it as you choose, and that would kind of fill you up when you are hungry. Alrighty. And so how do you calculate this little guy? You can calculate it when you go to the grocery store really easily. You just take the calories divided by the weight in grams. And the goal is to obviously find things that are closer to like a 0.1. 0.11 is probably the lowest food, not including water, which would be celery. So it's 19 calories per 170 grams, and it gives you 0.11 is the density then. So it's very, very light. You get a croissant, and it's at 3.55. But compare it to olive oil. Olive oil is 8.88. But again, this is where portions come into play. 1 teaspoon of olive oil goes quite a long way in our food, as opposed to 1 croissant, which you're going to eat the whole thing of. So when you think about these things, think about how healthy they are in the sense of nutrients too, because obviously this isn't calculating nutrients, it's calculating just the calories and the weight of it. And so apple's obviously a good one too. And there's a little chart. All these charts are from Dr. Bell, and so she has a great book on volumetric eating, and so you can get that, I think it's on Amazon, but she has quite a lot of information on it, but I'll be very honest with you. It's very basic. It's things that we already do, we just need to do more of. And so it's not, you don't need to go out and buy the book. So here, again, energy density, category 1, very low, so non-starchy fruits and things like that. And it goes into like low energy, medium, and high. And high energy density would probably be like your fatty foods, like your ice creams and whipped creams and things like that. Alrighty. So don't starve yourself, you guys. Bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, obviously go for less refined whole grains like brown rice, high fiber cereal, and high fiber bread. Do I have anybody that's gluten-free? I cook for 30 guys now. Out of the 30 guys, I would say 70% of them are high fiber people. They want everything as low carb, high fiber, in the sense of all breads are like Ezekiel. And then I have one person, and he's not gluten-free, but he's considered, he diagnosed himself, but he's considered gluten sensitive. So what he's chosen to do is he actually eats carbs, but he actually eats the refined ones. So he only eats the white breads, he only eats the white rice and things like that. There's a reason. Your body digests those things a lot faster. And so for certain people, if you've eaten things with a lot of fiber, like those wheat berries, it fills you up and it makes you feel heavy sometimes. And people who have gluten sensitivities don't like that feeling of that sitting. And so they cut it out, but they incorporate a little bit of still the white stuff into their food. So if you feel like you can't eat gluten, maybe go back to the white for a little bit and just eat a little bit of it. Don't eat too much. I grew up in Asia. They've been eating white rice their whole life, and they're perfectly okay. So I still only eat white rice. I can't eat brown rice. And so there are certain things that we can be careful of. So 1 cup of bran flakes, so this is a comparison, you can choose. This is the great thing about this kind of eating. If you wanted granola, you can have granola, but you just have less of it. So you would have a 1/4 cup of granola as opposed to 1 cup of bran. And fruits and vegetables, you can have anything you want as long as it's not covered in a thick sauce. Milk, yogurt, and cheese, pretty much the low-fat versions or skim. Meat, poultry, and fish. Lean, just everything lean. I know one of the biggest problems I run into these days is fish. How many of you, do you guys have problems buying fish, choosing fish? Well, my problem with fish these days in California is that they're all bottom feeders. They're all farmed bottom feeders. If they're wild, it's just salmon. And a lot of them trick you into thinking that things aren't frozen, that they're wild and not. I can say about 90% of them are frozen, 95%. Sprouts is now a culprit on my list. I used to be Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is still a no-no for me, but Sprouts, they like labeling things fresh. They don't say never frozen, but it says fresh. Be careful, because most of it is frozen. Because I buy 15 pounds of fish at a time, and they never have 15 pounds out. And they'll have to go to the back and get it, and they'll come out and be like, oh, I'm sorry, what we have is still frozen. It hasn't been defrosted yet. And I'm perfectly okay buying it, but I just don't like people advertising that something is fresh when it's not. It's frozen, it's fresh frozen. So just be careful of that. If you do eat pork tenderloin, I tend to suggest more than chicken breast nowadays, just because chicken is overused. Rosie's is probably the only brand that I buy right now, and it's organic and it's pricey. So I would say go for pork tenderloin's a good one. And so fats, you just want low fats, nuts. Fats from nuts are really good, flax oils. And vegetable oils, just make sure you know what's in your vegetable oil, and olive and safflower. Grapeseed isn't on there, but grapeseed is my favorite. Okay, so how to incorporate them. You can add more fiber, obviously, have vegetables to snack on. And you want to check the label. This is where they trick you a lot with the 100% whole wheat and things like that. You want to make sure that whole grains are in the first 2 ingredients, and that there's at least 2 grams of fiber per slice of bread or whatever it is that you're choosing. Cereals, 3 grams of fiber per serving. So adding a lot more fiber into the things that you eat. Egg whites are also a good lean protein that you can have, and add low sodium, no salt vegetable stock or water into sauces. I'm doing a class on cooking the perfect chicken, and it's one of those things where as long as you have a pan and a piece of chicken and a chicken stock, vegetable stock, anything, you can make a sauce out of it, and it has absolutely no cream in it. It's very easy to make sauces for your food out of what you already have. There's no need to add creams and thickeners and cheeses and things like that. I find that food has enough flavor on its own, and you can make things with it. Alrighty, and add more fruits. Alrighty. Okay, so easy ways to save. Just a couple of them. Bagel versus whole wheat bread. You can see it, you can save about 60 or so calories. Soda, ice cream, just getting the non-fat or diet versions of those. Alrighty, I'm going to come over here now, and I'm going to show you guys what we ate today. Any questions about the dense defense? Anything about how you would incorporate it into your diet? Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things that I made today and why they work. Alrighty, so one of the things that were people here for Callie and John? Was it Callie and John? Did you do the talk with John? No, you did, right? Yeah. Callie and John's talk. Is anybody here? And I made spaghetti squash and bulgur meatballs and everything. Okay. That menu for that day was supposed to be for today. I'll be very honest. I thought I was presenting that day, and so that's why I was there. Rika, can you get the TV to work? Maybe, or maybe we'll try to get it to work right. And so those recipes are very, very volumetrically dense kind of recipes. Spaghetti squash is one of my favorite things to use. If you've never used spaghetti squash is super easy to use. You just put it in the oven with a little bit of water and that's it. And so I like using that a lot, but what I'll do is I'll also use other vegetables and make them into noodles, like carrots and zucchini are my favorite. I'm going to show you what we did today. Yeah, camera one. Did it work? Almost there, sorry you guys. How was the food, okay? Was it too spicy? No? Okay, good. Because I try not to make things too spicy. But that is another trick. Thai food. Thai food is spicy for a reason. It makes you sweat, therefore it doesn't make you want to eat too much more of it. It's a very good idea. If you want to cut the amount of food you eat, try sprinkling a little cayenne pepper or sauce, it does. It cuts down how much you actually eat. It just works. And so if you like spicy food, that's a great way of doing it. Is it on?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Alrighty. So I am going to show you, the first thing I'm going to show you is the 3-bean salad. So you guys had that. What I wanted to show you was my tomato vinaigrette. Tomatoes are in season right now. And you can buy pretty much any kind that you want. You can use Romas, you can use, I used the vine ripened ones today because they were prettier. Just look for the red stuff right now nowadays. You don't want them too soft because then they end up being better sauce tomatoes as opposed to dressing tomatoes. I didn't take out the seeds. If you want to, you can. So the way that you take out the seeds is, this is where the root grew. You just stick your finger around the edge and you cut down through the middle. It exposes all the seeds that way and you can go in and cut it. If you cut it this way, what happens is there's a whole pocket of seeds right back here that you never get to. So don't worry about it. You can keep them in. I don't even take that part off. I just stick it all in there and blend it together. So this is taking place of a lot of your oil and a lot of the vinegar that you might be using. And I use white wine. You can use apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is one of those things. If you have pets at home, get them to use your apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is it has amazing properties to it. Use it in place or use a little bit of it all the time, and it's just healthier for you. And so then I'm going to add basil and oregano too. And I know a lot of you guys like my salad, or I don't like saying that. No, a lot of people have questions about my salad dressings. My salad dressings are really simple, and you'll see how easy it is. Bullets, have you ever seen those bullet things? Perfect for making salad dressings for a week. Put a shallot, some mustard, olive oil, vinegar, and you're set to go for a week. But for this, because I'm making more of it, I'm just going to do it in a blender. I'm going to go in and chiffonade my basil, so just give it a coarse chop. And that's going to all go inside. I have to add honey. What happens with tomatoes is that they get a little too acidic. So from anything from tomato sauce to a dressing like this, I will always add a little bit of sugar to kind of cut through the acidity. And then your secret ingredient, or the one thing that holds everything together, is just a little bit of mustard. And you can use Dijon, you can use yellow, anything you want. So use apple cider vinegar if you have. I've got white wine, so I'm just going to use a little bit of white wine vinegar. And olive oil. This is my new favorite olive oil. If you guys haven't tried this, it's the Trader Joe's Spanish. It is really nice. It's nice and thick. Like with most olive oils, they're kind of thin and watery. This stuff is thick, so you end up using less of it than you would normally. And so I'm just going to add, I know it seems like a lot, but it's not. Just a little bit of olive oil. I've got foodies that are health fanatics that always watch me make large amounts of salad dressing, and they always freak out when they see how much of things I'm adding in. Do we have the lid to the... No, the other one. Wrong one. Oh, it's okay. I'll figure it out. I can get it to work. And so all you're going to do is just put it straight onto your blender and... And you can add oregano too. I added oregano into yours, that's why it's on here. Oregano is really nice now too. And all you have to do is just go through, pull at it the opposite direction. And so that all goes in. And then garlic, which I don't have out right now. But that all goes in, and then you can use it as for your salad dressings. You can serve it with a chicken. You can heat it up too. And it heats up really nicely, and you can add things like cheeses inside of it, which would also be good. Any questions on that? So that's pretty much, yeah.
You said something about vinegar and pets. What were you talking about?
Oh, apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar, my vet told me, I go to a holistic vet, I'm sorry, yeah. And she told me that apple cider vinegar has some properties in it that help keep fleas away too.
Did you put it on their food?
Yeah. And that's the trick. They don't like the taste of it. And so I cook, my dogs are 12 and 14. And so I cook for them every day. And so I add vinegar into it. And it's supposed to keep fleas away, and it also helps with their immune system. Fleas and mosquitoes, I think, were the big ones that it kept away, because I couldn't give them all that medication anymore. They're getting too old. So yeah, but it's supposed to help. Yeah, you guys interested in dog cooking? If you ever need a dog recipe, I cook for my dogs of all things. And so I don't cook for myself, but I cook for my dogs. And so, but that's pretty much all that there is in a salad dressing. You guys can keep this one because it's got tomatoes only about 2 to 3 days. I wouldn't keep it any longer than that. If you have one that doesn't have any fresh vegetables in it, you can keep it for a week to 10 days. And so as long as it doesn't have anything that can go bad, that will be it. Alrighty, so the next thing is actually I'm going to do this last because I haven't touched chicken. I'm going to do your dessert first. This is, as much as I would like to say this is a recipe that I came up with, it's not. I'm going to direct you guys to one of this is my own variation of her recipe, but one of my favorite websites in the world is 101 Cookbooks. It's by a lady named Heidi. She is a vegetarian, not a vegan. There's no meat recipes on her website, but she is really good about adding fiber and vegetables and things into her food. She comes up with recipes like if you like buttermilk, but you don't you think it's too whatever. She makes a buttermilk farro salad, and farro's kind of like wheat berries. It's got that same, but it's with buttermilk, and she soaks it in it, and it gives you the most amazing taste. So this is something that she makes that's similar in the sense that it's healthy, but all it is carrot and ginger, like freshly grated ginger, and I'm going to add whole wheat pastry flour, and you can add oats, nuts, and everything just goes in together. A little bit of salt if you want. If you've taken my cooking classes, you know I don't like adding salt, and then applesauce. This is where it's different. She uses coconut oil. So let's talk about coconut oil. I'm doing a talk on dense foods, and that's why I'm adding all these types of ingredients inside, from applesauce to your dried fruits and things like that. Coconut oil is still debated till today, but everybody thought it became okay when Trader Joe's carried it. It's still debated, you guys. Still be careful. I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist. I do have information about nutrition, and I know it, but it's still such a debated topic that unless you're healthy already, I wouldn't incorporate it into your diet. Make sure you're healthy right now. The way that she does this recipe, so I'll just tell you the difference, is she takes the coconut oil and she cooks lemon zest into it. So you get kind of like a nice lemon zest into the flavor of the cookie. So you could do that if you want, or you could just add fresh zest or like zested lemons. The other thing, some tongue twister, we're going to add dried figs. So you guys didn't have figs. I think you had currants in yours. Both. Figs and currants in both of yours. And then your leavening agent. And this is the other part that's different. Sorry. I did a combination of honey and maple syrup. So as you can tell, there's no sugar in these, but honey and maple syrup. They're both natural. That's why. Just figure out which one's cheaper at the time, because maple syrup sometimes is just really, it skyrockets. And so just be careful. Buy what you can afford. Honey's not cheap these days either, but this is so much healthier than what you would normally eat that if you do crave something sweet, go for something like this, because this has about 50 calories per cookie, so you can, or muffin top. And I'll give you guys the recipe in one sec. But pretty much you just mix it all together, and then you're just going to take handfuls or little balls and then lay them onto your cookie sheet. I don't eat carrots, but I'll eat these. The taste kind of disappears. The other thing that you can add that's also good is zucchini. If you really, really don't like the taste of carrots, add zucchini. Grate zucchini and add it into there, and it's just as good. There's a lot of these new vegetable cookies that are coming out that actually help you kind of satisfy that taste bud of something sweet. The one little thing that you can do to kind of make it even better, take some white chocolate and just melt it and drizzle it. Just a light drizzle on top of all of those cookies, and it'll kind of give you that extra kind of indulgence that you might crave at the time. So that is that one, and the last one I'm going to show you is the jerk chicken. So, jerk chicken. Jerk chicken. Does anybody make jerk chicken at home? No? Oh, you do? Okay. How was it? Is it okay? Not as spicy as usual, huh? No? Compared to you? No? No? Huh? Oh, it's not in there. Oh no, I was asking you how you thought it was. Was it okay? Okay, good. No, because it's something that's supposed to be really, really spicy. Usually you use habanero peppers. I use serranos, so I cheated in that sense. The lights just go off? Yeah. Yep, we just blew another fuse. The second time today. We'll go tell them. Yeah. The picture you can still see? Okay, perfect. I'm going to do the chicken part last, because I want a hand of vegetarians. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you not eat chicken because it's an animal, or? Okay, then I won't do that until the very end. Because I was going to teach you guys how to save money and debone your own chicken. Because one of the ways that a lot of people seem to spend their money is buying pre-cut chicken breast, pre-cut this, pre-cut that. If you buy a whole chicken and just know how to take care of a chicken, you're set to go. So the marinade ingredients is pretty much allspice, cinnamon, nutmeg, and brown sugar and soy sauce. So a little bit of everything, and lime juice. And so we have lime, serranos, ginger, and it gets all blended together. I just always have to do this because people always ask just how to slice an onion in half, or how to dice an onion. I sliced them and tossed them in with the sweet potatoes and the kale and collard. To do that, all you have to do is just cut off one end and go back in and slice. If you want to dice, cut it in half, then peel it. Red onions don't make you cry as much. And depends on if they're old, actually. The older the onion, the more you'll cry. So you're going to take off that end and cut it, and then you can go in one time if you want, if your knife is sharp, and then you can go back in and dice. If you ever want to watch this again, it's on the ARC website. I have a little demo on how to do that. So if you ever want to learn how to do that, you can. For ginger, the easiest way is it's going into a marinade, so it's not necessarily important to peel it, but if you did want to peel it, you could, and you wouldn't use a fork, but you'd use a spoon, and just use it to scrape. Scrape at the edges, and it'll come right off. And then you can use this whole part, and you can either grate it in, or you can put it into the food processor and mix it all together. And that's it for that. For the serranos, I don't know, what part of the chili is spicy? The skin? The seeds? That's it. It's the membrane. So, it's not the seeds. Take off the ends, and I'll show you. This inside part that the seeds are touching, that's what's spicy. So, to take care of it, I usually just go in and I'll scrape it off. You don't have to, though, because, I mean, they are seeds. What ends up happening with seeds when you blend them is they turn a little bit bitter, but you're not adding a lot, so it's up to you. You could also just cut it in half and V it out and just core it out. And then for the lime, we use the juice and the lime. If you are ever interested, just poke a hole or two and then squeeze. And that way you can use your lime again, too. You don't have to keep using a brand new one. So that gets all tossed together. And then we've got sweet potatoes that we mix together. For the sweet potatoes, I roasted them a little bit first and then added everything else into it. So I take my sweet potatoes and roast it, and then I'll add onions, and then I'll add my greens. Good old greens. Kale. It's everywhere. Kale is everywhere. Kale, collard. Kale is everywhere. I shop at Sprouts a lot, and I go to like Albertsons and things like that. This guy it's taken over everything. It's taken up too much room on the produce shelf to the point where all my other greens are gone. It's really sad. I mean, I have nothing against kale, but it's just everybody's gone through like a kale craze, I feel like, from kale chips to everything. I did kale chips last year that were really good. I love kale, but there's other greens out there that you guys can use. You do not have to use kale if you don't want to. But to take care of kale, all you have to do is, it's got that really, really thick stem, same as the collards. All you have to do is just pull it off the stem. You can still use this. If you want, if you're real nut about nutrition, keep these, make them and put them in your green smoothies. These are great for green smoothies. Or if you make stews, you can add these inside too. I love doing it with broccoli stems. Broccoli stems are really good. If you just cook them up alone, they're still good. So these guys you can eat. It's just that it takes a little while to cook down. So all I did was I took off some of the kale. Can you grab me the head of garlic on the top? And then, oh, there's one more in here. All you have to do is go in and chop it up. So scrunch it all up like you normally would, and go in and cut. And that gets all tossed in, and then also with collards. This is what I don't see enough of anymore, collard greens. The collard greens section was overtaken by the kale, so be careful. Collard greens are just as good, and all you have to do is twist them up and cut. What I would suggest you do, if you don't like collard greens and you don't like kale and you're more of a spinach person, go to any of like the Asian supermarkets, and there's a huge array of different spinaches that the Asian population has decided to call spinach, but they're not spinach. There are things from like, they call them water spinach, there's like, they've just come up with the countries they came from, like Vietnamese spinach, or like, there's different ways that they've done it. But what's cool is you can go in there, and what you're just looking for is something with a thicker stem, and add that into what you're cooking, and just taste it. A lot of those vegetables in those Asian supermarkets are not strong flavored whatsoever. They're not even close to a mustard green. Like the mustards that they have are not even close to what you would get here. They're very light in flavor, so incorporate them into your food if you want, and you'll find some things that are quite interesting. And so for the collard, you would do the exact same thing and just take that off. This is the fun part. Wheat berries. Almost very hard to find. Very, very, very hard to find, I find. No supermarket, no Albertsons, Ralph's, things like that don't carry it. Sprouts does. The way that you cook wheat berries, and I'll leave these up here for you guys, you cook wheat berries in boiling water for about 45 minutes, and then they get tender. As tender as you want them to be. And then you just toss them in and roast them with everything else. This just adds that volume to your food and into your stomach. So it kind of makes you feel full that you've had a carb. It's not a carb that you normally see, but it kind of deceives you into thinking it's rice, and eat it that way. You can also add this into your steamed rice, or I add pearl barley. Add half pearl barley, half brown rice. You're actually adding even more fiber than you would with just brown rice. So things like this, incorporate them into your diet, and they give a nice bite too. That's what I like about it. It kind of gives you something, other textures. Those textures really play with you. And the last thing I'll tell you about this whole volumetrics eating thing. Oh, wait, I have one thing before, because I don't think, some of you have come before. If you have garlic, because we used a lot of garlic today, put it in a towel, pull it, and then hit it, whack at it. Because for those who haven't seen this like 10 million times, oh, and my time. It peels it for you, so you can just go back in, and you can just take it out. You get your towel dirty, I won't lie, but that's all you have to do. It's in the top. Do you see it on the top? Bread pan. Yeah, I think it worked. It did, right? No, kind of. Okay. So time. One of the tricks that I read about recently, it's not frozen enough. Grab it as a block too. One of the tricks that I've learned recently about time is if you take time and you freeze it, because this is one of the most annoying herbs in the world to take off and do the little things with. Most of you know that I do it this way. I take thread and needle and I just thread it through, strain it, and then I can catch it. It's not my tonkalikio from Kraft, obviously, or Top Chef, whichever one you want to think of. But this is another trick. I froze it this morning, so it's not really ready to go. But if you freeze thyme, and then you put it in a Ziploc bag and go like this, it'll start to fall off on you. It has to be pretty frozen though. This isn't frozen enough. But do you see how it starts collecting on the bottom? And that way you don't get any stem, and that's all I did, and I already have just the leaves. So you just have to go this slowly, keep it frozen, and then you're ready to go. Every time you need a little time, you just need to rub the twigs, and then it'll fall right off and go into your bag. So you can use that trick too. Yeah, because thyme can get a little bit frustrating sometimes. I've been trying to grow. Does anybody grow their own herbs? Okay. I started to grow my own herbs again because they died on me last time. And I've been told never to grow basil, and so that's the one thing. Yeah, they say never to grow basil because it dies too easily. Yeah, so, yeah, and so it's like one of those little things that I've been learning about growing your herb garden. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free to stop by and look at it. But if you have any more questions, I will be, yes?
Agave syrup, what's its
comparison? Oh, compared to honey, go for the honey still. Agave tricked people, I feel like, because it's still a sugar. It's just not as refined, and it's more natural sugar. But it has pretty much the same sugar content as sugar does, and so be careful with it. The only thing that I have problems with honey is that I get a lot of vegans, and vegans can't have honey because it's from an animal. So that's the one thing that I run into, and so maple syrup is like that one last choice that everybody can have. Oh, brown rice syrup too, yes. Yeah.
When you cook the wheat berries, do you need to soak in the water first?
No, I just 45 minutes straight.
And in the
Low, yeah, low boil, yeah. Still watch it boil, but don't let it simmer. Let it boil out. And I have questions? Yeah.
When you use fresh herbs, do you wash them first? Because I feel like they're always soggy if you do.
For myself at home, when I cook, no. For somewhere like here, I do. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where as much as, like one of the things that people were told were never wash organic foods. The soil that it was on was good and everything like that. But how many hands touch that piece of whatever? And that's what you're really washing off. It's what hand touched it before it went into the box. And that hand wasn't clean. So I would say if you were really worried about it, get a wet towel and just brush it off. I'll be honest, at home for myself, I don't. Here, I do. It's one of those things. In culinary school, we actually were taught never to wash our herbs. We were taught. The two that we did were cilantro and parsley just because of the amount of dirt that it grows in. But thyme, basil especially, we were told never to wash basil. And so for most restaurants that you eat at, I can almost guarantee you they're not washing the basil. It ruins it. It really does. It makes it nasty after a while. So unless you're making a pesto out of it and you can grind it, but it changes color on you automatically. And so it's very, very up to you on what you feel like doing. Any other questions? Yeah.
When you roast your the sweet potatoes, do you put olive oil on them?
Yes, I did. I tossed them.
Cut them up, you toss them in olive oil, and then you put them on like a baking sheet?
Yep, and then roast it. And you can actually do that a whole day before. If you want, because I was worried because I had to cook for a large group. I peeled my potatoes yesterday, and I tossed them in oil and then put them in the fridge overnight. They kind of dry out a little bit if you don't toss them in oil, so at least toss them in oil and cover them well, and then you're ready to go straight into the oven, whatever you want. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you microwave it?
Yeah, you can microwave it. Sweet potato. No, not that. Microwave. There's a great book now on being eco-friendly, and being eco-friendly is using your microwave to cook because you end up using less water, gas, everything. And so there's a cookbook that they came out with recently, and it's all microwave cooking because it's supposed to be the healthier way too, because you can keep foods almost raw if you just zap them a little bit. And so, but it's completely up to you. I don't find anything wrong with microwave cooking so far. I don't know. Nobody's had any issues. But come on up if you want to watch me debone a chicken. Those that don't, like Mika. Yep, I'm doing right here. I find that
I to buy whole chicken. I actually
it's not okay. So this is $5. So it's $1.69 a pound, whereas chicken breast usually runs about $2.49 a pound. Of course, when you're at Sprouts, they've got the $1.99 specials every once in a while. This is what you're paying for. I should teach all of my students how to do this so that. So this is the back, huh? It's okay. So pretty much, if you get your chicken, you can feel where the bones are. And the first thing you want to do is break every bone. All the joints. Because it'll help your knife. Because then you can feel there's a joint right there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to go like that. And then I broke this joint, so I can go back in through here. Now I flip him over, and I break his back. That's why I don't know, when we did this in Calorie, it does scare some people. And now you can see where this is, right here. And you can go in, and you can cut it. Yes, you do need a pretty sharp knife. A butcher knife will do pretty well. And then you can sometimes if you lose it, you can go back in, and you can find it. Freeze these and make chicken stock with it. Because then you've got a bag of all chicken and all veggies, and you can go back in. So then there's this bone right here. So you can take this, and you could go back in and cut it again. And the easiest way is obviously break it again, and then go back in. And then you've got your thigh, and then that. To debone it, all you have to do is find your fat lines. There's a line of fat that goes through here and all the way down through here. Find it, just like that. And then you just want to expose the bone a little. That's all you need to do. And then you can go around it. And then using the back, try not to use that side. Scrape it off. And then you can find the bone. Just like that. And if you've ever been to if you ever go to a chicken factory, they do this so fast. And then there's your thigh. Yep, they can do so many of these. And so there's your thigh. And then there's the wing. There's different ways of doing this, but same idea. You go in and you cut it out. Let's do the breast. So for the breast, I'm going to take, this is probably boneless or skinless. Skinless. Yeah, you can definitely just scrape it off too. But you can just go through the middle. This is the harder one, just because you want a knife that can cut through that bone. It's not really a thick bone. It's almost like a cartilage, yeah. So you just want to go through there. It is like surgery, huh? I remember we had to see my knife isn't sharp enough to do this. Is there my big knife? There we go. Nope, I got it. And then you go through this side. You can cut this. So then you could just cut around that backbone. This is where you would cut. So you start there. This butt piece is favorite. You keep this. I'll be very honest. So this is what I do with the butt piece. This is a delicacy in Asia. They skewer these onto each other. There's so much fat on that. I render it, and then I cook it with rice, and then I put water or whatever, but I use the chicken fat and I cook it with rice, and it gives it extra flavor. So it's really nice after that. So this is what we call a airplane. If you took off this little one, they serve it with the wing. But if you don't want it, just feel around and you'll feel where the wing joint is. And I cut it with it. And you can go back in and cut it off. Just like that. Tough side, there we go. And there's your chicken breast then. And so then you can roast it. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 pieces then. And then you can do pretty much anything you want with it. Same thing with taking the bone. Find the bone, use a knife and scrape slowly around it, and then you're ready to go. And then you can take that whole thing, take the extra bones and everything, collect them, and make stock out of it.
Remind everyone not to use
And do not use the same cutting board, yes, please. The one thing that I've been noticing a lot of people do a lot now is undercooked chicken. It's not one of those things that I would go tell people, oh, go and start undercooking your chicken. But a lot of times people will ask, well, why is that restaurant's chicken so good? They're undercooking it. They're not cooking it to temperature. FDA requires us to cook our meat to 160 degrees. That's like cardboard for most of us. So for like beef, I cook to like 115 and I let it sit for 30 minutes. Chicken, if you do it at home, cook it only to like 145, 150 and just let it take it out of the oven and let it do its rest. It might be just a tinge of pink in that middle part, but if you're buying kosher chicken, as long as kosher salt touches any kind of poultry, it turns it pink anyway. That's why when you make turkey breast, it has that kind of pink tinge to it. So that's the other thing. So kosher salt makes that normal kind of pink. But the best tasting chicken is pulled out at about 145, 150. So just remember that before you cook your chicken. Don't kill your chicken. Well, it's all right, but yeah. But cardboard doesn't taste very good after a while. So my email address is on the website for UCI Health and Fitness Friday, so you can email me, and I'll get these recipes to her by the beginning of next week, so she'll have them on. The chicken, marinate. Yeah, I just marinate it. And then the other thing is, most chicken breast today comes. This is a nice size. This is what a chicken breast should look like. But if you've seen Foster Farm chicken breasts recently, they are, even the organic chicken breasts these days are about, this is like the perfect chicken breast size. Most chicken breast size these days are like a pound each, yeah. So what I had to do was I actually went in and I filleted them. So I had to go in like that. And then I quickly seared it, so I marinated it overnight. I quickly seared it. And then I baked it. I finished cooking it in the oven. And I covered it so the moisture stayed inside on top of all the stuff. The which one? Marinade, the allspice, cumin, allspice, cinnamon, brown sugar, and a little bit of soy sauce. And garlic. And then it all goes in and marinates it, yeah. And I'll have the recipes too online. Thank you for coming out.